The glass slipped from her hand, and red wine spilled down his shirt like blood on white silk. The room froze. Laughter died midair. For a moment, no one breathed, not even her. He looked at her calmly, his eyes soft but steady, the way someone looks when they've been here before, in a place where respect costs more than gold. She didn't know who he was, not yet, but in a few seconds, everything she thought she knew about class, power, and color would come crashing down. Have you ever seen arrogance meet karma in the most unexpected way? Tell us in the comments. Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. It was a bright morning in New York City, and the sky over Manhattan looked like it had been painted clean after a storm. In one of the tallest glass towers sat Michael Harris, a man who had climbed every step of success with quiet strength. He was the CEO of a fast-growing tech company known for his calm nature and humble ways. He didn't wear expensive suits to impress anyone. His smile, his steady eyes, and the way he treated people with respect, that was what made others trust him. But today, he was heading to a dinner that would test more than his patience. It was an event filled with billionaires, investors, and people who thought kindness came second to money. Across the city, Evelyn Carrington was choosing her jewelry for that same dinner. She was the wife of one of the richest men in the room, confident, proud, and used to being admired. To her, life was a perfect picture, until that night would smudge it forever. The dinner was set in a golden hall with crystal lights and music that floated like air. Waiters moved gracefully, glasses clinked, and laughter filled the corners. When Michael walked in, wearing his simple gray suit, some turned to look, not with curiosity, but with quiet judgment. He greeted everyone with warmth, but few greeted him back the same way. Evelyn didn't know who he was. To her, he looked like another guest trying to fit in. But when their worlds touched, even for a moment, something deep and unexpected would unfold, something that money could never fix. If you were in their place, what would you have done? Tell us in the comments. The evening moved like a slow song, full of polite smiles and empty words. Michael stood near the edge of the room, talking softly to a small group of investors who admired his vision. He didn't brag. He listened more than he spoke, and that made people feel at ease. Across the room, Evelyn watched with mild curiosity. Her husband, Charles Carrington, was busy discussing a possible billion-dollar partnership with none other than Michael himself. Yet Evelyn had no idea. To her, he looked too simple, too ordinary to be someone of importance. When the waiter passed by with drinks, she reached for a glass of red wine, her favorite. She laughed with her friends, her diamond earrings catching the light like tiny stars. Her laughter grew louder, careless as she turned, and that's when it happened. Her elbow hit another glass. The wine arched through the air and landed straight on Michael's chest. Red splashed over his white shirt. Time stopped. The laughter fell silent. Evelyn froze, the smile still half-formed on her lips. Around them, whispers began, small, sharp sounds like broken glass. She stammered an apology that didn't sound like one, her tone stiff and defensive. "Oh dear, I didn't see you there," she said, as if it were nothing. Michael simply nodded. He took a napkin from the table, gently wiped the stain, and said nothing. His calm made everyone more uncomfortable than anger ever could. He excused himself politely and stepped out for a moment. When he returned, the tension still hung in the air. Evelyn tried to move on, but something about his quiet grace unsettled her. He didn't act humiliated. He didn't seek pity. He just carried himself with dignity. And somehow, that felt heavier than silence. As the dinner ended, Charles Carrington approached Michael with a bright smile, ready to finalize the deal they had been preparing for months. Evelyn, standing beside him, suddenly realized this was the man. The CEO, the one her husband had praised for his brilliance and integrity. Her heart sank. She wanted to vanish. Every guest's eyes seemed to shift toward her, then away, pretending not to notice. But she noticed. She saw her husband's forced smile fade as Michael's calm expression stayed unchanged. "Let's talk in private tomorrow," Michael said kindly, his tone smooth as glass. Charles nodded eagerly, trying to cover the awkwardness. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. The image of his eyes, calm, hurt, but full of quiet strength, wouldn't leave her. For the first time, she felt shame not because others were watching, but because she was watching herself. Have you ever carried pain in silence, hoping one day someone would truly see you? Tell us in the comments. The next morning, the city woke up to gray clouds and soft rain tapping against windows. In the Carrington mansion, silence filled the air. Evelyn sat by the window, her reflection staring back with heavy eyes. Her husband had already left for the meeting with Michael. She wanted to go too, to say sorry, but pride chained her heart. Meanwhile, in a quiet office high above the city, Michael waited. His shirt was crisp, his tone calm, but inside, there was a storm. Not of anger, but of disappointment. He had spent his life breaking barriers, proving his worth not through color or title, but through grace. Yet moments like last night reminded him how fragile respect could be in the eyes of the world. Charles walked in, smiling wide, trying to bring warmth to the room. "Michael, about last night, Evelyn feels terrible," he began. But Michael only nodded. He didn't need apologies whispered in private when the insult had been made in public. He looked at the papers before him, the deal that would make the Carrington family richer than ever. Then he looked out the window at the city below, the rain washing the glass clean. He thought of every young person who looked like him, who watched men like Charles shape the world while others fought to be seen in it. And in that quiet moment, his heart made the decision his mind had already whispered. He closed the folder and looked up. "Charles," he said softly, "I've decided to move the deal elsewhere." The room went still. Charles blinked, his smile faltering. "May I ask why?" Michael's voice was steady. "Because respect is worth more than any billion-dollar deal." Outside, thunder rolled gently over the city, as if the sky itself agreed. When Charles left that office, his shoulders were heavy. And when Evelyn heard what had happened, she finally understood that the cost of her carelessness wasn't just embarrassment, it was the loss of something priceless. What would you have done if this truth was suddenly staring back at you? Tell us in the comments. Days later, the news spread quietly through the business world. The Carrington family had lost a billion-dollar partnership overnight. People whispered about it in offices and boardrooms, but no one really knew the full story. Only 3 people did. And for 2 of them, the lesson would last a lifetime. Evelyn didn't attend any more grand dinners after that. The sparkle that once filled her eyes had faded into thoughtfulness. One afternoon, she asked her driver to take her downtown. She walked into a small cafe, ordered coffee, and sat by herself. For the first time, she noticed the people around her. The waiter smiling despite the rush, the old man reading a newspaper, the young woman wiping tables with tired hands. She saw beauty in the people she had once looked past. She remembered Michael's calm, his quiet dignity, and how he never once raised his voice or his hand. His strength had come from something deeper, something she wished she understood sooner. Michael, on the other hand, moved forward with his company. But he never forgot that night either, not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that sometimes silence carries more power than words. He used that memory to build a culture of respect and equality in his firm, giving chances to those who were often overlooked. Months later, at a charity event, Evelyn saw him again. She walked up to him, no makeup, no diamonds, just humility. She looked into his eyes and whispered a simple, honest, "I'm sorry." Michael nodded, his eyes kind. "We all learn," he said softly and walked away. It wasn't forgiveness she sought, it was understanding. And in that moment, she found it. He walked out into the evening light, the city glowing with a quiet warmth. Some lessons, he thought, are worth more than money. They change how we see each other and how we see ourselves. What part of this story stayed with you the most? Tell us in the comments. Show some love with a like and subscribe to stay inspired.